I'm Richard Gearhart, an intellectual property attorney specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, not an attorney, but I work at Gearhart Law doing the marketing, and I have my own startup.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, everyone, the road to entrepreneurism, where we talk with entrepreneurs, innovators, and talk to them about the intellectual property that helps them flourish, among other things. So tonight, we have a very special guest. Her name is Jodi Krangle, and she's a voice-over artist, which is absolutely perfect for a radio show. And we really look forward to hearing what she has to say.
Yeah, and then we have two incredible presenters. Like, we always love to talk about how we really have tried to focus this show on innovation. And I think both these people are very innovative. And first we have Monica Talbert. I'm sorry. Oh, no, that was her. First we have Monica Talbert with PlantBased Seafood, which
Yum.
Yeah, I really want to find out a lot more about this. And then Miriam Younger with My Platypus LLC, which is an incredible platform for people with disabilities. And I'm not going to say anymore. We're going to let them do the talking.
Absolutely. That sounds great. But before we get to our distinguished guests, it's time for Richard's Roundtable and the IP in the news segment. So please, Elizabeth, who is on the chopping block tonight?
Well, Amazon has a patent application that they filed. So it hasn't issued as a patent yet. They're fighting it through the patent office still. They'll probably get it allowed. They also filed it, what's called a PCT application, which means that they can file in a bunch of different countries in Europe when they're ready to. It's basically robotic arms that throw packages around.
So is this like invented by teenage boys? I mean, is this like you're just getting this big visual of walking into an Amazon warehouse with this packages just flying all over the place?
Well, yeah, they do have like package detection systems so they don't crash into each other.
That's amazing.
It's just, and they have this picture and it shows one like getting thrown into a truck somehow. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I can just imagine like if you have a employee who's having a bad day or something, you threaten to throw packages at them, right? Until they get their act back together. So, but if they're doing it, there must be a good reason for it, right? And so
I guess it takes the place of conveyor belts or something. I don't know, but
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, if you ever happen to be having a slow moment, you want to entertain yourself, go look up this patent application, and it's got this big robotic arm holding a package. It's sort of like, like Shrek. Sorry about that. Shrek holding a basketball. It's like a pretty funny looking picture. So anyway. It's
I don't know.
Time for the roundtable now. So Jodi, what do you think about all this? And do you have any comments or questions about intellectual property?
Well, I think probably Amazon is the person to want to throw packages around since they do a lot of deliveries and such. I wonder, actually, I'm curious if that patent would also allow them to use drones in order to deliver packages. Or is it just within their warehouse using arms?
That's a good question. Maybe they use this to throw the drones into the air with the packages. You could have two technologies at once.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I want Amazon coming into my home without me being there. So I don't know.
They have like automatic newspaper throwers, right? If they throw newspapers out on the driveway, so maybe that's how they're going to deliver packages in the future.
They better be much more wrapped if they're going to be doing that.
Yeah,
that's what she was saying earlier too. We were talking about this. I'm like, well, lots of times Amazon overpacks. Like they put like one tiny thing with a bunch of bubble wrap in a box that is like 5 times too big, and then
it can get silly.
And you're like, oh, I got this big thing, and then you open it up, and it's like, oh, it's cat food, and it's in a little space. So I don't know. Anyway,
on we go.
So Kenya, do you have any thoughts about this?
Well, things like this are cool, but it always worries me that it's going to replace humans, right? And I was actually in Sam's Club a couple weeks ago doing some shopping, and I saw a robot that was stocking the shelves, and it was detecting who was in the store. So it kind of reminded me a little bit of this. So I was like, it's cool, but I don't know. It's like we're going into that whole I am robot era.
The only problem is they always break down. I mean,
Right.
you always have to have a human come and fix them unless they can train robots to fix them. But
Yeah,
but you're
then
right.
that's a
You're
that's a
right.
good point. I think I see that in my local grocery store too. And I always I don't see it restocking shelves, but it's just like kind of wandering around watching me.
They have this weird robot thing in our grocery store that just floats, like it wheels around and gets in the way and everything. And it's like, what is it for? I guess it's looking for spills. I don't know.
It's your robot overlords checking in
I
on
think
you. That's what it is.
yeah, when they start saying, "Yep, can't buy that, too fatty," you have too much junk food in your cart.
Then we should be worried.
So Miriam, what are your thoughts about all of this?
I love innovation. So for me, I think about it in a way, I tend to go, I love the idea that it might prevent injury, because when you do talk about throwing around packages and these, right away, I think about jobs in the past that used to be very dangerous for people. I think, wow, you know what? This is going to be a safety, it's an innovative way to help promote safety for the future. I think change is always difficult for people. We know that change is very difficult for people, but I like it. I like
Well, that's a wonderful point, and I imagine that's part of the reason they're doing it is they want to reduce accidents and bad backs and all of those kinds of things that
Lifting heavy things, right?
Go
Then
with
humans
lifting.
don't have to do it.
When I heard you
That's
say
great.
throwing things around, that's the first thing as a mom that comes to my mind is like, oh, someone's going to get hurt, doing that.
Well, I do
You're gonna
have to
poke your eye out.
I do have to say, we do have a dumbwaiter in our house that goes from the garage to the kitchen for groceries. And I'll tell you, we didn't know that if we would use it that much. We use it multiple times every day.
It's not a person. It's actually a little, not a dumb waiter.
They know what a dumb waiter is. It's a miniature elevator.
I didn't know one was until you said you wanted it.
Okay.
So
Anyway, let's keep going.
I had to look it up on the internet, and there's not a lot of dumbwaiter references, by the way. So who's left? Monica, please contribute to this conversation.
Sure. I mean, I don't think this surprises me at all. This is the way of the future. Kenya brought up the robot in the grocery stores, but there's also robots. Actually, I just saw in celebrity chef Kathy Fang's restaurant in San Francisco, there is a robot waiter that brings the food to the table.
Oh my.
And there's also so many startups that are working on automation in the grocery store as well, like in the actual, the stock in the back in the inventory and picking and pulling. Drones, they're 100% coming to Amazon. That's definitely in the future. So this is right in line. I'm actually just kind of, surprised it took this long, maybe.
Wow.
If you follow Elon Musk, I think says that, so many jobs will be replaced by robots. So again, I think that this is just, right on line with where we're headed.
Yeah, maybe we can get robots to do all the work and we can just chill out all the time. That sounds like a pretty good to me. So,
well, someone needs to fix the robots, right? Like there's all sorts of jobs that will be created because of this too. It's just there'll be different jobs. That's all.
Yeah.
Robots will fix the robots.
Then we can look forward to,
Right.
Then it'll be our robot overlords. Careful of that one.
Well, yeah, but if they work on wireless signals, then anybody could hack them at any time. So
yeah, a robot could end up throwing an Amazon employee across the warehouse. That would not be good. So.
Well, I think it's interesting because I don't think everything will be able to be replaced by robot. Even when you mention the servers, I think that's interesting because that personal touch when you go out to eat, things like that, I'm not so sure it's going to be so easily replaceable. Certain things, I think the human touch is still necessary. Although I'm sure some robots are going to be very human-like, but
I don't know.
There's a lot of. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say that there's a lot of talk of synthetic voices. So that again is IP in the aspect of that's my intellectual property. And I don't want anyone taking that without my consent. And there's a lot of cloning and text to speech and all of this stuff that's going on right now too. And it's kind of the Wild West right now. I've been working with a company called Open Voice Network, which is sponsored by Linux, and they're doing a lot of studies on this and talking about it, ethical considerations, and working out contracts between software engineers and voice actors and stuff like that. So there's like all of this, it's all coming. We know it's coming. We just need to be able to protect ourselves, make sure that it's ethically done. And whether it's robots in the grocery stores or people cloning voices, you need to be aware of the legal ramifications and everything that goes along with that.
That makes me think of a question for Richard. Richard, can someone trademark or patent the use of their voice?
That would probably be more in line with copyright protection. I think trademark, you can trademark sounds, but they tend to be short and associated with a different brand. I think copyright protection would probably be the avenue that people would pursue. And then obviously if there's technology behind generating the voice, that may be protectable with a patent. So, but interesting question. I mean, this is kind of the Wild West from a legal perspective as well. All of these new innovations haven't really been thought through, and there's not a lot of clear answers on them. So, but just guessing, I think it would be copyright.
Be interesting to see. That could be a whole new line for a new attorney to explore, right? Copyright of voiceover artists' voices.
So we have to take a short break. We'll be right back. This has been a fascinating discussion, and I've really enjoyed myself. And I hope that the robot overlords are pleased with the way we described this topic. But if not, we won't be coming back, but we will. So we'll be back right after this commercial. Welcome back, everybody. Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. And we have a very special guest for you tonight, Jodi Krangle, who is a voiceover artist. So when you hear commercials or when you hear people in the background speaking, it's people like Jodi. And it really does require a very special level of skill to be able to do those kinds of things well. And she's had fantastic success. So welcome to the show, Jodi. It's a pleasure to have you on. And
Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. So you talk a lot about audio branding. Mm-hmm. What is that? And why is it important?
Well, audio branding is a larger umbrella under which your on-hold music, the music you use on your videos, the voiceover you use, any sonic logo that you might put together, all of these things are under that umbrella. And what it is it's the thing that gives people that split-second idea of who you are as a company or as a brand. And it's really fast and it's really deep. It gets to our heart. That's how audio works for us as human beings. So it gives us the emotional context of where your company fits into our lives.
Amazing. So can you give us some examples of that, for example?
Well, I mean, there's all sorts of ways that this is used. I mean, McDonald's has used it with their da 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 da, like but that started as a huge song. It started as a Justin Timberlake song, right? And then they started using not Justin Timberlake on it, but someone else, and they were only letting you hear the chorus. And then it got boiled down to those notes because those were what triggered the recognition in you on a regular basis.
And they didn't have to pay Justin Timberlake as much because it's just using the first couple measures of the song. That
is very big. I actually on the podcast talk with music licensing people as well. And a lot of times a company will use a famous song, but they may have it performed by a lesser known artist so that they can get it, first of all, so that they can get it so that they can allow it to fit their creative a lot more closely, but also so that they can not have to pay the performance royalties for that particular song, which is a lot less expensive than just licensing the use of that, mechanical use. So yeah, there's all sorts of ways to do this. And, people go to audio branding companies and they get a sonic logo done. My voiceovers fit into a particular company or brand in that usually the type of voice that you would hire for a product or service would be you'd almost want to use the voice that your clients have. So you'd kind of want to reach out to your clients on their level by being who they think their their audience is. And it doesn't have to work that way, but for instance, when you're going through and you're trying to figure out what what music to use for your brand, you can choose a music piece that you like. Yeah, sure, you can do that and that you think represents your company. But if you're not thinking about your end client and who they are and what they like at the same time, you're kind of missing out on a good part of the point.
I've
You know-
never thought of it that way. That's really brilliant.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
I was just going to say, even within our team, there are so many people who have different tastes in music.
Yeah.
It would be
yeah.
hard to find, we have older people who are just total 70s, metalheads, right?
Mhm,
And so
yep.
it's just, and then country music and, just foreign folk music,
Sure.
it's just, it's amazing. So it could be pretty challenging to find a sonic logo that does
It
that.
could be, but if you're talking about figuring out your avatar, right? So your end user avatar, the person who your business is for, who are those people? Who are you reaching out to, and what music do they like?
so
What,
Jodi,
yeah.
yeah. So Jodi,
Good.
sorry, what would you do with this then? So if I'm a small business owner and I get my logo with the little jingle with it, do I put that on my website so it plays when people go to my website, or like how would you use it?
I would use it actually for the beginning or the ending of a video that you put on your website. I wouldn't necessarily put it as something that automatically plays on your website because you don't know where people are you don't know where people are experiencing your website. So they may be in an environment where they need quiet, or they're at work and they're not supposed to be looking at this.
They're logging on to Amazon again.
Yeah. You never know, right? So and
Right.
personally, I've been involved in the internet since the beginning, like 1995. And if something plays automatically, it annoys me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I noticed too, like on the little videos in the news feeds and stuff, they're always on mute. So if you go to open one and look at it, you have to unmute it. But I want to go to Kenya because Kenya knows way more about sound and sound advertising than Richard and I do. So she can, I'm sure, ask much more intelligent questions.
Yeah, ask a smart question, Kenya.
Yeah, ask a smart-
Thank you for that. I don't know if I have anything really intelligent to say, but I do want to know how you got started in this line of work.
Well, I have always been interested in voice. My parents are very musical, and when I was a kid, we had sing-along time, not story time. So my dad plays guitar and my mom sings, and so the family would gather on one of our beds before bedtime and have a sing-along, and that was every day. Like that was the regular thing in our house. So we've always been very musical, and I in 1995, I volunteered my time at the CNIB, which is the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, and I was reading articles onto reel-to-reel tape for the blind at the time. And I was struck by, first of all, the fact that voiceover existed because I honestly didn't even know it was a thing until then. And it's funny because voiceover is one of those things that you don't really think about unless you're in the know. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things that just doesn't impress itself upon you until you meet someone who does it, or something really impresses you about a commercial or some reading of some kind. And it just doesn't impress until you get in the know. So I had a lot to learn, but I let it percolate for a long time because I was in internet marketing and SEO, search engine optimization, for many, many years. Like I said, I'm an early adopter of the internet. So I had a website, a songwriting resource actually, that I was promoting on the internet on a dime. I had no money at all. And so I learned a ton about how to do that. And then I went out on my own and helped other companies do that. because I kind of knew a thing or two by then. But in 2007, Google was the only game in town, and I got really bored. And yeah, I've said this a lot, but things happen when I get bored. So I tend to do things.
You start throwing boxes, right?
Well, yeah, maybe. You think that's where they got the patent from? Yeah, no, I don't know. But yeah, I decided that I was going to switch my focus. I had this voiceover dream in the back of my head for a long, long time. It had been percolating, and I just thought this was the perfect time to give it a shot. And I knew absolutely nothing. So I went online, and my first instinct was to go to a message board. So it was not to be asking anything local. It was immediately to go global.
Oh.
So that's what being raised in the era of the internet does, right?
Right.
Sure.
Where are you located, Jodi? Are you
I'm
in
north of Toronto. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you
yeah.
you say in your notes here that sound can influence the way things taste.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
I
so-
had yeah, it's a fascinating study, actually. I had Steve Keller, who is the SiriusXM Sonic Strategy Director over there. And they deal with Pandora and SiriusXM and Stitcher and all of that stuff. And they have an advertising agency. Oh my goodness, and I'm blanking on the name right now, but their advertising agency is very, very innovative. And what they started doing, Studio Resonate is what it's called. Yeah. So Studio Resonate did a promotion for Propel, the energy drink, in the before times, before COVID. I think it was 2018 or something like that. And they had these DJ stations set up with the drink and an iPad, and you were listening to something in your earphones, and you could dial on this iPad whether you wanted the drink to taste saltier or sweeter, because it's an energy drink, so it can be either, right? And people were actually experiencing a different taste by what they were hearing in their ears.
yeah, I would imagine like listening to Howard Stern while you're eating dinner would make everything taste
Yeah.
worse, you know?
Well, it depends on what you like. It depends on what you like. But yeah.
No, I have not. If you're listening, I have nothing but respect for you as an audio, entertainer. But I was just making a joke, so please don't cancel me.
Okay, we get it. So I did want to address one point on here while we still have time, that you say you started out and you could give people tips on how to start out doing the same thing, which is great. But you're an introvert and a business owner, and you don't sound like an introvert. Now, Richard considers himself an introvert and a business owner.
Except when I'm at home and you say I talk too much.
Well, you do talk a lot. But what's the difference between being shy and being an introvert? So a lot of introverts have to put themselves out there, because that if you're a business owner, you're a marketer immediately, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. You have to be out front, but you don't have to be out front all the time. That's the thing. For introverts, it's really all about how you regain your energy. So when I'm being an introvert, I start off the day with a certain amount of energy. And then as I go through my day, I expend it. So that doesn't make me shy necessarily. It just means that I don't want to schedule too many forward-facing things one after the other, because I need recovery time, right? I need peace and quiet. I need to watch Netflix and chill or something. I just need to like relax for a little bit before I go to my next outward-facing thing. For extroverts, they start off the day with nothing and they gain it as they spend time with people. So it's it's an opposite thing, but once you know how you operate, you can make your business work around that. And that's what I've managed to do, because I schedule in my downtime as much as I schedule my out front time.
Well, that's really wise.
Right. I agree. And she, on the other hand, is like the queen of expressiveness, right?
Well,
and
I'm not a super extrovert, though, I don't think, because I don't. Some people do give me energy, but a lot of times I'm the one giving the energy to other people.
I agree with that. But you feel much happier communicating. And
I
then
do.
there's a lot of times when I just like need to like shut everything off and
Mm-hmm.
fall into my computer or something and just to revive.
There are times at home where I'll ask him something and he like doesn't really answer. He makes some gesture and I'll say, use your words, Richard.
Yeah. It's funny. Like I'm a musician, I'm a singer. I spend my days with sound all around me, but when I am taking my downtime, I need absolute silence. It's one
Okay.
of those things that I don't know why it is, but I think it's because I analyze things too much. So if I'm listening to a song and I'm listening to the lyrics and I'm listening to the tune and all of this, I'm like analyzing, oh, why did they do that? Oh, I like that. Oh, okay. Like it gives me a headache. I can't relax.
Well, thanks for backing me up, Jodi. I really appreciate this. See, we've got third-party verification of the way I am.
We need to let Kenya talk at least a little. huh?
Yeah. So
just
I
had a
want to know if she's an introvert or an extrovert
Who,
first.
Kenya?
Yeah.
Oh,
I feel like I'm a little bit of both, and I'm not sure if that's possible. Depending on the
Sure it is.
situation, I'm shy. I don't want to use the word shy because I don't want to speak that over myself, but I'm more like introverted. And then depending, like if I'm really comfortable with you, then will not stop talking. So I think I'm a little bit of both. I had a question about the Sonic logo though, because I don't feel like we have enough conversations around that. And I don't think a lot of people know what that is. I think they confuse it with a jingle when it's really not a jingle.
No.
It's different. So could you just explain the difference?
Well, a jingle is a whole song, really. So it's a song that you hear over and over again in a commercial. So I'm sure that many of us have jingles we remember from 30, 40 years ago, if you're that old. But the Sonic logo is a little more of a bite-sized thing. So it's like you're looking at your logo, and looking at a logo visually takes 2 seconds. Like that's what it is, right? So the audio version of that is 3 to 5 notes. Like it's really short. And for McDonald's, we heard what that was. It's also dun 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 dun, like that's the Intel thing, right? There's a whole bunch of these, but at the same time, as important as that can be, it's not audio branding. It's not the whole thing of audio branding. It's one of the pieces. It's one of the components, and not everyone is going to have them. So it's not necessary per se, but it's nice to have if you're a larger company and you're doing a lot of advertising and you want that little extra something something on the end of your videos or your commercial, and it's very memorable and you consistently use it. None of these are effective unless you consistently use it. Consistent repetition is where advertising shines. That's what you need in advertising.
Oh, that's a great point. So, Kenya, did you have another question? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. I was just going to say, I totally agree. I was just going to mention that MasterCard has been using, Sonic logos recently. And I thought that was kind of cool. I'm seeing them more frequent. And I got to say, I don't think Gearhart has one yet, which is like, if we're branding ourselves as the #1 audio company, I'm pretty sure
we should have one.
We should.
One.
You know what? If you want, I can sing. And
I actually was interviewing the person who made the music for the MasterCard branding, and he's been on my podcast, and he's a jazz flautist from India. Really talented guy. And it was fascinating because a lot of what he talked about, they make what are called mogos. So they're like tiny little logos between 3 and 5 seconds. And they use a lot of these in MasterCard. But what they did with MasterCard was they made it very dynamic. So the music that they use for MasterCard, for their advertising, for their videos, for everything that they do is very dynamic depending on where in the world you're hearing it. So in India, it has different music and a different beat. In South America, it has a different type of beat and a different bunch of music, instruments. So
Wow.
it, like everywhere in the world that it's heard, it's different because it has to appeal directly to locals. And that's what they want to do. They want to make it very, very specific. For someone like MasterCard, that's really important because they're everywhere. For
Yeah.
smaller companies in a local area, maybe you want to think about reaching directly to your local area using a local musician for your music or type of instruments that are really popular in your area. Things like this are things to consider. An audio brand is a living, breathing thing, and it changes over time, and it refines itself, and it finds its audience. And it's as important to attract your audience as it is to repel people who don't get you.
Okay.
Right. No,
Right.
I agree 100%. That's the marketing funnel, right?
Mhm.
You don't
Yeah.
want the people that are flying over the top of the funnel that have no interest because they waste your
Right.
time.
Well,
Well,
I was
yeah.
just going to say with Alexa and all of these voice things, I think,
Mhm.
having an audio signature there can probably be pretty helpful, right?
Oh,
Totally.
Yeah. So you mentioned your podcast. What is the name of your podcast?
It's called audio branding, the hidden gem of marketing. But I talk about all sorts of things sound related. So anything having to do with our buying habits with sound, but also our daily experience of sound. So medical healing and public speaking and voiceovers and podcasts and storytelling and all sorts of music, of course, and filmmaking and videography and cinematography and Foley and all of this really interesting stuff. ASMR, I definitely have talked about that before. Noiseless movie props, I've talked about that too.
Great.
Lots of
Great.
interesting things.
So I want to just make one really quick comment. Sound is so important. We recently went on vacation and we were a little disappointed because they were doing construction and there was this horrific noise the whole time. But the other thing the other thing we really missed was we weren't on a part of the ocean where you could really hear the waves crashing into the shore. And that's Richard was saying, I wanted to hear these waves because that's what we experienced in Cancun and Puerto Rico. So that sound was a very important part of the vacation for us. And
I can always find something to complain about. So
me too. The construction was
Yeah.
So anyway.
well, Jodi, it's been a pleasure having you on. And
Thank you.
and you sound great, by the way. And I think how can people get in touch with you? How can they find their podcasts and how can they hire you for voiceovers?
Well, my website is at voiceoversandvocals.com. And if you're interested in the podcast, it's at audiobrandingpodcast.com. Pretty simple. I also talk on Clubhouse on a weekly basis. So I don't know if a lot of people know about that, but it's a social audio network. And I'm there usually every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Today I'm not, but usually. And we have discussions all the time, just for an hour, about the power of sound and any of those aspects I was talking about that I talk about on the podcast.
Well, sounds great. And we'll be back with more Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart and our special guest, Jodi Krangle, and also Kenya Gipson right after this. Welcome back. Passage to Profit. We just had an amazing sounding guest, Jodi Krangle. If you missed it, you can go and check it out on our podcast and also go to the Passage to Profit website. It's the Passage to Profit website show. And in addition to hearing
Passage to Profit website show. That's not the name of the website.
Oh, did I screw that up?
The website.
No, okay, let's
It's Passage to
one more
Profit
time.
Show.
It's the Passage to Profit show website.
Yeah, but it's Passage to Profit show.com is the website. There's no the in front of it, but
Go to the Passage to Profit show.com website and you will see all of our guests. You'll have access to all of our podcasts and you'll see our affiliate stations. So Passage to Profit is now syndicated nationally and in over 30 markets. So we're very happy and pleased about that. So please go there. You can also go and download the podcast wherever you download your podcast. It's available all over the place. And go
to our YouTube channel because we always get the best looking people on this show.
Absolutely. We just want you to look at us. That's
no,
what we
don't. That's why we're on radio. We want you to hear us. But our guests look great.
Our guests
YouTube.
look great. Yeah.
So.
Well, once you've seen us, you pretty much have seen what there is to see. And then Also, all right. And let's go on now and get serious. Now it's time for power move. So Kenya, please.
Oh, thank you, Richard and Elizabeth. And thank you for making me laugh. I feel like it always takes the nerves away.
I can't do the show without laughing.
So for Power Move today, we're going to talk about R&B superstar Ashanti. She is actually the first woman of color who has become an owner in Web3 tech company. So Ashanti announced at South by Southwest that her partnership with Web3 tech company is launched, and it allows artists and creators the opportunity to share and monetize their content. And it also allows fans to buy and sell NFTs of their favorite artists and creators. So they're also going to help artists and creators own equity and be able to build wealth. So I thought that was a big move for Ashanti, especially in the world of NFTs, where I think we're all trying to still figure out what all that is and how it all works. But I love to see that happen for her.
Yay, Ashanti.
Well, and the Web3, I did a little bit of research on that. It's supposed to be using the web the way that you use the blockchain, right? So, and people get paid for the contributions they make. So people have been complaining for a long time that marketers just take their data and use it. And I think the Web3 is a way for people to get paid for that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I might sell my blood pressure and weight to somebody for the right price.
Highest bidder wins.
Highest bidder wins.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on. What's going on with Fireside?
So congratulations to Ashanti, though. That's very brilliant. So Fireside, I'm talking to the person I picked to do my website today. So I kind of got hung up because my group I was working with were like, you don't know what you want your website to do. And I was like, but I do know what I want it to do.
She knows.
And so I kind of got bogged down. They're like, well, you have to be able to present it to a developer in India. And I was like, but isn't that what like the website designer guy does for me? And so anyway, so I've gotten past that hurdle now. And I picked somebody to do my website, and we're supposed to have a meeting this afternoon to get started on it. But, and this guy, the reason I picked him is he really understands it. He did a video with me. He really understands what I'm trying to do. He understands how to do it, but he also understands what investors would look for. And my goal with this is to build it up, scale it as much as I can, and then sell it by 2030, because I don't want to be working when I'm in my whatever's.
Well, we're going to be here doing Passage to Profit when we're in our 80s.
Are we?
Well, I plan to be here.
To
we'll just do it from the nursing home.
So anyway, so that is Fireside. But now we are on to our presenters. So Monica Talbert, which I think what she has is very cool, and I do really want to try it. It's plant-based seafood. So please tell us all about it.
Hi. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. And Jodi, oh my gosh, I just learned so much. I just jot everything down. I'm going to look into a Sonic logo here right after the call. So plant-based seafood, our little elevator pitch is we make healthy and delicious seafood experiences made from plants, so close to the real thing that it will blow your mind. And our brand is Mind Blown. So that's actually how we got the name for that.
Great.
So people were trying our plant-based items, and they couldn't wrap their head around the fact that it wasn't actually seafood and that it was made from plants.
Wow.
And yeah.
What kind of seafood? I mean, is it
What kind of plants is what I was going to ask.
Well, yeah, I wanted like what kind of you do fish? Is that what you do, or you do? Is it something else?
We started with shrimp. We wanted to recreate a delicious, popular seafood experience for consumers, and so we thought shrimp is one of the number one, consumed seafood in the US. So start off with shrimp. We did a crunchy coconut shrimp, also a dusted or breaded shrimp. Went on to innovate with the scallop and also crab cakes. So our thing is we want to recreate not just a raw shrimp or a raw scallop. We want to recreate the actual seafood experience for consumers. So we find a lot of people that for whatever reason are going towards a plant-based lifestyle, or, they're vegan, or, they have a shellfish allergy. The last thing that it's so hard for them to give up is seafood. So we focus a lot on that whole seafood experience. And our background is in seafood. So I've been in the real seafood industry for 20 years. So
what kind of plants are you using?
So each is different, just like each sea creature is so different, has different textures and flavors. Our crab cake has artichoke hearts of palm, textured wheat protein. Our shrimp and scallop, that's, everyone asks what's in that because it truly has that bounce back. That's the thing that kind of freaks people out sometimes. It's very close to the real thing. And that's konjac root. So that is a root vegetable that's grown mostly in Asia, but tropical mountainous environments. And it's actually been used for thousands of years in Chinese traditional medicine for medicinal purposes. But when it's put into a powder form and you mix it with water, heat it up, cool it down, it becomes like a gelatin. So it gives it the spring and the bounce back.
Wow,
Oh,
that's just like an impossible shrimp, right? It's
I think though, like your marketing, it's sometimes hard to break into this, but there've already been plant-based burgers, but people have been eating imitation crab meat since I was a little kid, right?
really?
Right?
Yeah, they use whitefish and make imitation crab meat. It tastes just like crab, right? So you've already got that going. So are you finding a big market for this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so many people that are looking to decrease the amount of meat that they're eating, whether that's red meat. I think it started with red meat, right? And that's where Beyond and Impossible really came out. Because we've been told all of our lives we need to decrease the amount of red meat. We hear that all the time. And one thing, actually, a challenge that we've had is so many consumers, we're told to eat more seafood. And so in the beginning, that was the number one question. We're like, I don't understand why we would need plant-based seafood if we're told to eat more seafood. But I think people are starting to wake up to more things that are happening with the seafood that we eat. 90% of what we consume in the US is imported, and less than 2% is actually inspected by the FDA, and like less than 0.1% is actually tested. A lot of chemicals are put into the seafood. It changes many, many hands. There's different human rights issues that go on. And so we want to offer a sacrifice-free, easy choice for consumers for whatever reason they have for choosing, a plant-based item. And we want to make it as delicious as possible. So,
I'll never forget when a couple of years ago, I changed my diet. I decided I was going to just have like one piece of red meat per week, and I was going to eat fish the rest of the time. And I ran to my trainer. I said, look, I changed my diet. I got rid of the red meat. I'm eating fish. And he said, well, just watch out for the mercury content because that'll kill you.
Yeah, those farm fish. I mean,
so this sounds like a perfect solution to that, problem. So, Jodi,
absolutely. And sorry.
No, go ahead.
So just the fact, with the population is exploding, the increase of demand in seafood is absolutely exploding. And it's going to eventually be a food security issue. So we have aquaculture that exists just purely because we're overfishing our oceans, right? So we need to have a gap. You're trying to fill in the gap. But even aquaculture can't keep up with the demand because of the increased population. You have China and India's middle class, it's exploding. They're going to eat seafood more often. And so there's got to be other alternatives that are part of the solution. And that's how we see plant-based seafood.
That's great. Jodi, did you have a question?
Not necessarily a question, but I'm familiar with the cognac because of Miracle Noodles and that kind of stuff. So like that's what they use for zero carb, kind of noodles to have instead. So yeah, and it totally works. I can see how this would be pretty awesome.
Those konjac noodles have been helping people, I think, get off pasta for quite some time.
It helps a lot, actually. Yeah.
So Kenya, we'd like to hear from you.
Sure. So one of the first things I thought of going back to the whole Sonic logo thing was when you said seafood, I thought, remember, it's the Gordon's fishermen. So you should totally, figure that out for yourself because that stuck in my head. The one thing I was going to say also too is that, I've been struggling with my weight for the past couple of years. And 6 months ago, I started doing what's called the Daniel's fast. And it got me to go towards a plant-based model of food. And to date, I've lost 43 pounds going.
Wow.
Wow.
The one thing I haven't been able to give up though is seafood. So I'm really happy that you've come to the market with this, because that's been like my crutch for substituting meat. But I have to tell you, I feel so much better. And it's the first time I've actually have seen the scale move and like significantly in years. And I've tried everything. I've gone to the doctors, I've tried pills, everything. But the plant-based thing really helped my glycemic levels.
Wow,
I'm
that's
coming to
amazing.
your house for dinner, Kenya.
No, but it's so true. I mean, we hear about that all the time. You know, one, it's the hardest thing to give up, but two, you know, moving towards a plant-based lifestyle, not only is it weight loss, but you just feel lighter. In a lot of consumers and customers even say like their brain fog has gone away and they just overall feel better.
Well, I'm sold on that.
Yeah, it's pretty foggy up here
It's-
sometimes.
I'm sorry, please continue.
No, but that's interesting because like I was trying this low glycemic, high protein diet and my body just couldn't handle all the protein. And a lot of it was animal, but so I think maybe plant-based is the way to go.
It sounds interesting. I'm definitely curious and want to explore it. In terms of carbs, how do the shrimp and the artificial seafood, not artificial, but plant-based seafood, how does that stack up nutritionally?
So it has, you know, less seafood in general doesn't have a lot of carbs. But when if you're adding breader to it or like our coconut batter and things like that, that'll obviously, you know, add carbs. Like I said, we're all about the seafood experience first, but we also do want to be healthy. So we're soy-free and gluten-free, make sure, you know, non-GMO. And from a protein, I think there's so much obsession over protein right now, and I think starting to get away maybe a little bit from that. Fiber, I believe, is more important. And konjac actually is very high in fiber. But we try and keep a protein parity. It's something that we work on, trying to increase a lot, because so many consumers are, you know, they're very concerned about, you know, getting their daily amount of protein in. So that's something we're very cognizant about.
Well, I need carbs. Like I lose weight on a high carb diet. I'm like the only one in the world, but I do. So, and so for my body, like everybody's body is different, but I like this because it is plant-based. I do feel like there's overfishing. I do feel like farmed fish are supposedly kind of disgusting.
They're evil. Yeah.
So I think this is a really great alternative. And I do think it's a good way for people to eat more plants, which we keep getting told all the time, eat more fruits and vegetables, eat more vegetables.
Right. And so why not have coconut shrimp instead of green peppers and salad?
Well, I like green peppers, but like coconut shrimp instead of artichoke. Or not, I like artichoke hearts. What is it? Brussels sprouts instead of Brussels sprouts.
Yeah. I mean, eat your vegetables, kid, and they've got coconut shrimp, you know, that it sounds.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and also from a plant-based diet, you know, lifestyle, and Kenny, you might attest to this. I mean, sometimes it can get a little, you know, stale, you know, you're looking for new things. And I think that's where those meat alternatives come in. It gives you a, you know, kind of an exciting experience that's not just a salad or quinoa or, you know, your everyday go-tos. This is helping make staying on a plant-based lifestyle, I think, more exciting and delicious.
Well, I see.
It gets boring really quick.
Yeah. I see you have lobster crab cakes here. I don't eat lobster because of how they torture the animals when they cook them. But I would eat these. I love crab cakes and I love lobster. So I would eat those.
Oh, you would love them. They're our number one, you know, consumer, I think, favorite. Well, coconut shrimp for sure. We took the lobster crab cakes off for a little while, and we had so many people reach out like, when are they coming back? They love them. So I know you would. I'll have to send you some.
Where do we get them? That's what I was going to ask you. Where can we get these?
So we're sold online. If you go to plantbasedseafoodco.com, we direct you to everywhere it's sold, veggie.com, GTFO, soon be on, you know, Fresh Direct. We're just starting our national retail rollout. So right now we're in LA and Chicago, just about to launch in New York and in Austin and Dallas, Texas. But the fastest way is online.
Okay, well,
I would love to just say one thing. Monica, have you considered going, there's an incredible potential market with kosher.
Mhm.
And particularly with the shrimp and lobster, perhaps halal as well. I'm not sure about their restrictions, but I for sure in the kosher, they do not eat the shellfish.
Mhm.
And there's a huge market.
Great. Well, I'm sorry, but we're out of time, but that is an excellent point to make. And maybe that is something that you can explore.
Yeah.
So we are,
Yep, thank you, Miriam.
so thank you, listeners. Thank you for that excellent presentation. You're listening to Passage to Profit and with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, and we'll be right back. Well, welcome back, listeners. Wow, we've had some really innovative things and things that entrepreneurs really didn't know about from our guests.
Yeah, I really
Jodi,
think
and-
plant-based seafood is such an
and-
awesome
and
idea.
plant-based seafood that I can hardly wait to try it. I really do want to try it.
I think we should,
Um,
we should try some this weekend.
It's grilling season. It better be good on the grill too.
Yeah.
So anyway, we are on to our next presenter who's been waiting patiently. Thank you, Miriam. Miriam Younger, and she has My Platypus LLC, which is an app for people, and I'm going to let her explain it. So please tell us all about it.
So the app is actually called Uplatypus. The app is Uplatypus. The name of the company is My Platypus LLC.
Okay.
What it is I am actually a matchmaker, and I have been matching people. People have to meet, get married and so on. And I've worked with some people who had disabilities,
Mm.
and they had a very, very difficult time on applications.
Mhm.
I have news that everybody has difficulty on apps. I believe the entire app system is very broken.
Yes, I agree.
And it really, honestly, it's something I'm very passionate about, because I feel like everybody who's single knows what this feels like. They go on these apps and they're swiping, and it's purely superficial based on the photo. And you know what? Half the time photos don't even look like that. People doctored up their photos. They don't even look like that. And it's really sad, because I truly believe less people, the more options, the less people are meeting, the less opportunity. Too many ideas, you walk away with nothing. And you can watch some of these guys, they're just swiping 70 times, in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, people are swiping through. They don't know anything about a person. And what I found when I work with people, I had the most success when I limited, and I try to really get more value-based, and then, then the photo kind of thing. So, so I'm taking my matchmaking experience, and I wanted to really help people within the disabled community. I find there's very few people helping. Just recently now, really recently, I've seen a whole bunch of new apps coming out for the disabled community. Unfortunately, they're still based on the picture and the swiping. So I wanted to do it differently, and I have. And I created an app that's based on first a description of the person. It's put in a fun way. You have to make a conscious decision whether or not that person is good based on their description. And if you want to go forward, then you do get a photo. And within the disabled community, it's such a variety of type of disabilities. There are 1 billion people in the world with disabilities, and in the country, the number, it's about 1 in 5, I believe. You can look that up. It's quite a large group. Unfortunately, my app will not be able to be utilized by all. People have to be of a certain, they can't suffer from severe cognitive disabilities, because they have to be able to legally consent to be their own guardian and so on. But there's a tremendous amount of people that, you know what, we can help introduce people. It's not a dating app, it's a connection app.
So what kinds of disabilities then would be associated with your app then? Who would be the users?
So first of all, it's a lot of different people could be the users. People think of disabilities in many ways. And I want you to know, when when I, starting with the research with this whole thing, the disability community is probably the largest minority group with the least amount of influence almost, because
Mhm.
they're siloed into different groups.
Mhm.
So you have people who are perhaps maybe, within the spectrum of mild, maybe like an Asperger or something, but they're fantastic, careers and completely, wanting to enjoy relationships with people. You may have somebody who's wheelchair bound. You may have somebody who doesn't look like they have any kind of disability at all, but maybe they have certain minor disabilities. Sometimes people have like attention deficit that, really is a disability for them. There are people who have, they may have a cochlear implant, or maybe they have a
Mhm.
visual disability. And then there are disabilities again that maybe someone has epilepsy, or it can be, everyone is siloed into these different groups. And I think it's really important for people to have the opportunity to meet all people. And so I want to, the app is also for people. I really think it's critical. And this is where I really feel like the innovation is that people truly are open to meeting people with disabilities as well from
Mhm.
the non-disabled world. Because one thing I've heard loud and clear is many people who will label themselves disabled or are disabled don't want to just date disabled,
Mhm.
and why should people are people, and it's about getting to know people, meeting people, and if you have common values. I was very inspired by a woman who has no disabilities, and she married a gentleman who's a fantastic guy with cerebral palsy, and they've had
Hmm.
and raised two amazing children. And she said to me, she said, Miriam, I want you to go with this, because this is something nobody's doing. And it's big, and you got to do it. And I just kind of got inspired. And
That's
So,
really great. I had a question.
yeah, go.
Okay. So I want to go back to a point you made, that this isn't so much a question as making this point stand out stronger, that the real unique thing about your app is that you read the person's description, you don't see them. And I think that that's really important. And I think that that's really something that can be stressed, is that you get to kind of know the person before you see them. And then maybe your judgment will change when you see them, but maybe not.
and I want you to know, I believe that it changes people's brain chemistry, because I'm not a scientist, but I will tell you that when I work with clients that have in the past, they got so many suggestions. They just keep, it's a FOMA, fear of missing out. They keep going for like prettier or more, whatever the career, whatever they're looking for, it more extreme, and they really do end up with nothing. If you open, I present my people on a door, and on the door is the outside. It tells you a little bit about that individual, and you have to decide, because you have a limited amount of keys, and you have to make a conscious decision. Do I want to open that door for that person?
Really clever. That's
Thank
very
you.
innovative.
Thank you.
Imagine judging person on their character and not on the way they look.
And I'm going to tell you what, Richard, what happens is, if you open the door, let's say you open the door 6-7 times, and let's say you're looking for, meeting someone for something more, not just friendship, but you're something more. You're opening the door, and the person isn't your look. The next person isn't your look. By the 7th or 8th person, when someone's somewhat your look, you're open to talking. It really does change the way people, opposed to looking for impossible beauty and impossible, which I see every day. And I'm telling you, this is innovative, but this is going to change a lot in the way people meet. And I'm very, very motivated, because like I said, I've worked with a lot of different, couples and people. And I believe this is a group that has been ignored largely.
Yes.
And I've seen it. I've actually witnessed
Yeah,
it.
I want to give Jodi a chance and Kenya a chance to say something or ask a question.
I just want to know how you came up with the company name because we were going to talk about that, and
That's
I want to
right.
hear that story.
I understood that platypuses were duck-billed and not just plain platypuses. Is
Well-
that true?
Well, let me ask you this. What do you know about a platypus?
Not much.
I think they're like duck-billed in Australia, and they're like in the water and stuff like that.
Okay,
So-
it's an animal that cannot be defined very easily. It's an
Right.
animal that lays eggs. It nurses its young.
Oh,
It's an animal that's not defined in a box. And
Mhm.
so, you know what? Someone said, oh, it's a difficult name. Well, I've had one person say, you know what? I'm going to call it Up. So I'm going to take the U and the P on the little box, and because I want to make it easy to understand, but hopefully none of you will forget the name Uplatypus when you're done.
No.
But people are not always easily defined. Actually, we're all really unique.
Mhm.
And you know what? I don't like to put people in boxes. So
That's wonderful. Kenya, do you have any comments or questions?
I do. I think it's a wonderful platform that you've built. And I'm just curious, like, do people that participate on the platform, are they required to disclose a certain amount of information? Like what's the criteria to
okay,
use the platform?
so just so you know, the application right now is being released in a week and a half, and we will be doing beta testing. And so to answer that question, so when you said, you know, up to now, what we do is we do have a lot of questions that are up to the user to answer. We do let people answer more specific questions if they want, because there are some people that do want to meet for friendship, people with other disabilities that are similar
Mhm.
to them. There is something else that's so they have, you know, we give people an opportunity to answer, you know, how much they want to, you know, disclose and or not, and so or whether people are open to datings or meeting people with disabilities or not. But the focus is absolutely disability. Now, I want to say there is something else that makes us, I believe, completely different than every other app. And it may surprise you all, but when many people are seriously dating or meeting people, and I'm talking people without disabilities at all, a lot of people like to have a friend or a parent. I can't even tell you, half have moms involved when they're meeting. And a lot of people are
funny.
like, oh yeah, well, that's the thing. And I'm talking men as well, Richard.
Yeah,
you know.
it doesn't surprise me. I mean, they get involved at one point or another.
It's
That's
good
for
thing your
sure.
mom wasn't involved when we started dating.
Well, and half of the people are like,
either
"No."
before or after. It's
Half of the people are like, no way, I would never let my mom or dad or anybody get near my dating. Half. So I understand
Well,
that and I respect that.
That's how we met. Elizabeth and I, we had we were living in Michigan, and we were set up on a blind date by a woman who knew both of us. And for me, it was love at first sight. Her, it took a little longer, but that's how it all started, right? And so, you know, this matchmaker thing, I think, can sometimes, you know, have some, so, you know, certainly work for us.
Well, I can tell you this though, but Richard, the way you and I met, or we met our spouses, is not the way people date today or meet today. It's
Right.
all app-based. And I prefer the old way 100 times, because you got to see a person as an entire person. I wanted to get back to when I was mentioning the friendship and friends that are important to get feedback, and parents. On our my app, I have the ability for a user to invite a parent, advocate, friend, wingman, whatever you want, for feedback that they can literally send. They cannot interact with other users, but they can actually send like a profile to a parent or again, a friend, get feedback and chat between each other. This is really, really, really useful. I've had people where I've worked with people who are, let's say, you know, with like some mild Asperger. I know, you know, the definitions of, you know, on the autism spectrum, they changed the terminology, but sometimes a little coaching is very useful for everybody. Forget about disabilities or not. To be able to be told, just to give some advice on how to, it's incredibly useful, incredibly useful.
So the one question I have is, do people with different types of disabilities date and get together?
So this is one of the things that I wanted to do within my app. I actually have created a community forum that when you're on the app, that I wanted people, instead of one thing you should know is there's a tremendous amount of help for those children. When people are little, there's camps, there's after school programs, there's all sorts of fabulous programming for people with disabilities. What happens when you grow up? It disappears. And so you have to kind of rely on certain organizations to create events for you to have whatever. So this is one of my purpose thing. I'm like always trying to think way ahead. I thought, you know what, wouldn't it be great if, let's say I could put an event together. Let's say we're going to meet in Central Park next Tuesday, people with CP, let's meet for lunch, little kind of meetups within the app that people can meet. And I think it's critical because I don't like, and that's one of the reasons, Kenya, that it is important to give people the option if they want to put some of their type of disabilities, it's not a required thing, but it's something, because sometimes it's just even, like I said, connection with other people who might be having similar kind of, issues as you. It's nice to have that feedback. And so whether people choose for friendship, they can actually choose friendship or something more. They can define it within their search. And again, I'm really trying to do something unique here because I believe A, it hasn't really been done, and B, we can do it. So
yeah, it's very innovative, and I have the feeling it's going to be really popular.
I think it's great, and I applaud you.
What is your website?
Uplatypus.com.
And is that the app? Can you get the app on your phone and it's the same thing?
Yes, this is the app is on the phone. It's not, we will, our website is basically for some basic information. We are right now having people sign up for the beta groups if people would like to be part of the beta groups. And this is something that's truly community. It's so important. We need your feedback. We want your feedback. We know that we're going to have to continually change to improve and always continue. So, we would love to have, everyone's feedback, and people can sign up for the beta groups and get the information.
Great. Well, thank you. Yeah. So please look for Uplatypus, and
which I think is a very trademarkable name for a dating site.
We did trademark it.
David at Gearhart Law trademarked it. David helped you with some other things, I see too. How'd you like working with David?
He's adorable. He's great. He's wonderful.
He's a hoot.
We love him. So anyway, we're out of time, but congrats to everybody on here. Like you guys are doing amazing stuff. So listeners, you are listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart and our special guest, Jodi Krangle, and we will be right back. Well, welcome back, listeners, to Passage to Profit. What an amazing show.
It was an absolutely amazing show, and I am the only man here today,
yes,
by the way.
Token male.
I'm the token male and loving every second of it.
So who did we have? We had Jodi Krangle, who is a voiceover artist, but much more than that. Like, she can tell you how to use audio in today's world to advance your business.
And she hears at a very deep level.
Yes, she does. So Jodi Krangle, you can find her at voiceoversandvocals.com. If you missed her segment, the podcast is coming out tomorrow. I would strongly encourage any entrepreneur to listen to that, because this is a really important marketing tool that not everybody's making good use of yet. And
here.
And then we had Kenya Gipson from iHeartMedia talked about Power Move, about Ashanti. And you can find Kenya Gipson at Kenya Gipson with a P at iHeartMedia.com. So if you want to be on the radio, you want to do some digital advertising with iHeart, She's the person. that we
Yay,
talked to.
Kenya.
Then we had Monica Talbert with plant-based seafood. Really interesting and something that we are definitely going to try.
I'm down for it.
And you can find her information at plantbasedseafoodco.com. Right. And then this is
I want some plant-based coconut shrimp.
I know that coconut shrimp was making me hungry.
I don't
We're
even
talking
care about the shrimp. I just want the coconut coating, with the
The
orange
crispy
sauce.
coconut.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Miriam Younger with her company is My Platypus and her app is Uplatypus. If you don't know how to spell platypus, I'll spell the whole thing out. It's Uplatypus.
And I learned something today about platypi,
You
which
did.
are that they're undefinable animals.
Right. So she has a way of putting people together that really is innovative and different than all the swipe apps and everything else. I mean, I think what she's doing is really powerful
I
for
think so
forming
too.
relationships, for finding the right relationship too.
I love it because I agree. Just looking at, profiles and stuff, that can't be a good way to meet people.
No,
right?
so I would definitely encourage everybody to check out this app. It's for people with disabilities, but I mean, maybe all the people that aren't disabled that you've been meeting are real jerks, and maybe you can find somebody nice on this app.
And maybe a little appreciative, So anyway, before we go, I'd just like to ask our guest, Jodi Krangle. Jodi, any thoughts for our audience before we sign off?
Well, I definitely think that people should not use sound as an afterthought. It should be part of your production from the very beginning, because then you can craft video and music and sound and voice and whatever sound effects you want, and it all works together cohesively, as opposed to tossing on a music licensing piece of music at the end. And I will say that one of the advantages of having an audio brand of your own is that instead of having to go and buy a piece of licensed music from a directory 50 times because you're making so much content, you have your own audio brand, your own music that you can dynamically change for each piece of output that you're doing. And it's not going to cost you as much over time. It may be a bit more of an upfront cost, but in the area of it being yours, first of all, so no one else can use it, and also not having to license 50 pieces at $50 a piece
Right.
every time you're doing a new thing, right?
And I'll just let everybody know that I'm available to sing for any sonic label that you would like. Kenya?
Yes.
That's really funny. So I would describe today's show as mind blowing. That's a shameless plug for you, Monica. So, very interesting conversation, very innovative conversation. I love what Miriam's doing with her platform for disabled people and, the dating community. I think it's very, very, very clever. And I love how Jodi is innovating with audio and teaching people how to do that. I mean, now we are in generation audio. So now is the time to be, having those type of conversations and creating. And Monica, I really appreciate you doing something for us seafood lovers in the plant-based space. Now I have options and I'm so excited to be able to try it. So thank you, everyone. It was great.
That was amazing, Kenya. Thank you so
As
much for
always.
being with us.
Yes.
Before we leave, I'd like to give a shout out to Noah Fleischman, our producer, our program coordinator, Alicia Morrissey, and also our affiliate radio station. So thank you very much to them, our new audience. We really look forward to hearing from you. Also, don't forget to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You're listening to Passage to Profit. Stop. You're listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth. Gearhart will be back with another show next week.